Look, we can all agree, right? Containers have totally changed the game for how we build and ship software. But, and this is a big but, anyone who's actually run them in production knows what happens. Once you have hundreds of them, it can turn into, well, absolute chaos. And that chaos, that's the exact problem Kubernetes was born to solve. So let's just dive right in. So here's the plan. We're going to start with the big problem, why managing containers gets so hard. Then we'll introduce Kubernetes as the solution, and we'll look at the anatomy of a cluster, the building blocks. After that, we'll peek into how Kubernetes actually thinks. And then, the really cool part, its superpowers, like scalability and self-healing. And we'll wrap it all up with why this matters to you.
All right, so first up, the problem itself. We all love containers, but as you start to scale, the complexity, it doesn't just add up, it multiplies. It's a whole different ballgame.
And let's be real, why do we love them so much? Because they finally solved that classic infuriating problem of, well, it works on my machine, right? They package everything up, they're super portable, they're incredibly fast to spin up and replace, and you can make as many copies as you need. They're built for scale.
Yeah, here's where that beautiful promise meets cold, hard reality. When you go from a few containers on your laptop to a full-blown production system with hundreds, a whole new world of problems opens up.
Seriously, think about it. What do you do when a container just dies? How do you add more of them, like right now, because you just got a huge traffic spike? What if the whole server that a dozen of your containers are on just goes offline? And because containers come and go, their IP addresses are always changing, so how do your apps even find each other to talk? Trying to manage all of that by hand? It's a complete nightmare.
And this is where Kubernetes steps onto the stage. The best way to think about it is like a conductor for a huge orchestra of containers. Kubernetes isn't playing the instruments itself, but it's making darn sure every container comes in on time, at the right volume, and that they all work together in perfect harmony.
Now, the whole philosophy of Kubernetes boils down to this one really powerful idea. It's declarative. You don't give Kubernetes a step-by-step list of commands. No, you just tell it what you want the end result to look like. You declare your desired state. You say, hey, I want 3 copies of my web server running this specific version, and Kubernetes just works tirelessly to make that happen, and more importantly, to keep it that way.
So how in the world does it actually do that? Well, to get it, we need to look at the basic building blocks. Let's piece together a Kubernetes world from the ground up.
Okay, so at the very top, you've got the cluster. That's just a group of machines that all work together as one big computer. Each of those machines could be a real server, could be a VM, is called a node. But, and this is a super important point, Kubernetes doesn't actually manage containers one by one. It manages pods. A pod is basically a little wrapper around one or more of your containers, and it's the smallest thing that Kubernetes can deploy and manage.
All right, so now that we know the basic parts, let's take a quick peek inside the brain of the operation, what we call the control plane, to see how it actually makes decisions.
So imagine this. You want to deploy your cool new app. You type a command using kube control. That request hits the API server, which is kind of like the main entrance to the whole cluster. It checks your request to make sure it's valid, and then it hands it off to the scheduler. Now, the scheduler is the smart one. Its whole job is to find the best possible home for your new pod, looking at which nodes have space. Once it picks a spot, that decision gets recorded in etcd, which is basically the cluster's permanent memory, holding the official version of what everything should look like.
Okay, we've covered the basics of what it is and how it works. Now for the really fun part, the superpowers you get from all this. This is where Kubernetes absolutely shines.
Superpower number 1 is self-healing. Remember when we asked, what if a container fails? With Kubernetes, the answer is, who cares? You don't have to worry about it. If a pod just dies for whatever reason, the control plane immediately notices that reality doesn't match your desired state. And poof, it automatically creates a new one to replace it. No more getting paged at 3 a.m. It's a game changer.
Let's just walk through it real quick. So your pod is running, everything's great. Suddenly, boom, it fails. It goes into a terminating state. Almost instantly, Kubernetes kicks into gear, a new pod is scheduled, created, and starts running. And just like that, you're back to having the right number of replicas, all without you lifting the finger.
All right, superpower number 2, scalability that's practically effortless. Do you need to handle that massive Black Friday traffic spike? Or maybe you want to scale things down over a quiet weekend to save some cash? Kubernetes makes this stuff incredibly simple. I mean, look at this. Scaling up is as simple as changing a single number in a config file. You want to go from 1 replica to 2, or even 200. You just make that tiny edit, you apply it, and Kubernetes just handles everything else, scheduling the new pods, deploying them, and making sure the system matches your new desire. It's really that easy.
And finally, our third superpower deals with that annoying changing IP address problem. A Kubernetes service gives you a stable, reliable front door for a group of pods. It gets a single IP address and a DNS name that never, ever change. So even as the pods behind it are being created, destroyed, or updated, that service address stays the same. Other apps always know exactly where to find it.
Okay, so we've seen some pretty awesome technical stuff, but what does it all really mean for you? You, the developer. You, the ops engineer. Why does any of this actually matter?
At the end of the day, it's about this. Kubernetes takes all that messy, complicated, error-prone infrastructure work off your plate. It automates the deployment, the scaling, the healing of your apps. And that means you can stop worrying about just keeping the lights on, and you can start focusing your time, your energy, your creativity on what you do best, building amazing new things.
It's a fundamental shift, moving from constantly reacting to problems to proactively creating solutions. And that leaves us with one last really exciting question to think about. Now that you have an infrastructure that can basically take care of itself, what new possibilities does that open up for you? What will you go build?